Welcome to Conversation with me, Julian Garman. Today, the subject is identity politics, and we'll be concentrating on recruitment. Now, the government set laws and rules that have to be abided by. They set targets that all companies must achieve.
We are publishing diversity profiles for every police force in England and Wales to show local communities up and down the country just how representative their police force is or isn't.
UK companies now have whole departments to enable them to reach the government implemented targets that must be achieved by law.
I guess in essence a lot of what I do is about people. My background is employment law, HR, as well as diversity and inclusion, cohesion.
They are also given incentives and bonuses for reaching the targets, and publicly humiliated if they fail to reach those targets.
And I hope these figures will provide chief constables with the information they need to identify areas for improvement and for the public and PCCs to hold them to account.
Racism has to be applied in some form or another by all businesses now to reach the targets imposed by the British government.
They implemented 3 selection principles, the first one being anybody that passed who identified as female, black, minority, ethnic, LGBT or disabled were automatically then given a conditional offer.
It breakdowns for officers in each force by gender and ethnicity.
The second principle was if anybody speaks British as their second language, English as their second language, they were offered a job. And then thirdly, anyone that already works for the organisation, whether that be PCSO or police staff, they were automatically offered a job, and those filled those 85 places.
Well, back in 2015, Cheshire Police was one of the 4 forces shamed by the fact that they had 0 black officers.
This data shows that 4 forces do not employ any black or black British police officers at all.
Home Secretary then was Theresa May, told police chiefs it was simply not good enough.
It is simply not good enough.
Which also showed just 28% of the police workforce were female. It should be a wake-up call. So
female officers make up 28% of all police officers, but 51% of the total population.
You become a victim of the police's efforts to change their image by recruiting more officers from different groups.
The Labour government created the Equality Act 2010. It should have actually been called the Inequality Act 2010 legislation, a racist and sexist document. It was brought in by the Conservative Liberal Alliance.
You might be aware that something called positive action is entirely lawful.
Positive action. Politicians use a lot of nice words. Positive discrimination, which is, of course, discrimination. But they will put the word positive in front of it to fool the fools.
It's about supporting people from underrepresented backgrounds into the police service. A number of large organisations and public sector organisations use that process entirely legal, entirely okay. I wonder sometimes whether some police forces are crossing the line now, but whether they are or they aren't. I've reported a few things to College of Policing before. It seemed a little bit ambivalent, but it is what it is.
The Diversity and Inclusion Strategy 2018, brought in by the Conservative government, was even more racist and even more sexist. In 2018, the Home Office Diversity and Inclusion Strategy was brought in. The government are trying to fool us with their words again, aren't they? They're not going to this time, are they? So diversity would be everybody, wouldn't it? So the fact that they're limiting people would be less diverse. As you can see, it's what they call inclusive. Inclusivity. Now, inclusion sounds very cuddly, doesn't it? Including people. Nice words. Of course, to include people, you've got to exclude other people. Racism and sexism. Include is the opposite of exclude. They're basically the same thing but opposites.
Okay, white men in Britain have to score higher now on recruitment tests than women or minorities. It's called West Midlands Fire and Rescue Services in England, and they require white men to score 70% on verbal and other tests, while women and black people, Asians, or other ethnic men have to only score 60. The change was implemented just a couple of months ago in 2017, and the program that they set up costs £100,000 a year plus £25,000 a month. They say here, 2,500, I should say, pardon me, for Facebook and other social media targets that they've set out for it. And treat other people better and different than you do a white guy.
They're including everyone apart from the white man.
That's bad.
We'll call it the less diversity and exclusion strategy. There we are, a bit of honesty for you.
How dare you do that? And they continue to do
If
it.
you have 10 kids in a class, being inclusive is very good if you include all 10 of them. But if you only include 9 of them and always exclude one, then it becomes a horrible thing. So basically inclusivity could be a good thing, but it's being used in a ghastly way. Racism and sexism isn't just bad for the excluded group that is being discriminated against. It's also bad for the chosen included groups. Now, racism and sexism has a detrimental effect on everyone. To achieve these racist and sexist targets set by the British Conservative government, you've got to exclude white men. Companies and businesses, now they all have departments dedicated to what they call inclusion. And I will never do that again, don't worry. Of course, which also, of course, means exclusion. Thousands of jobs now you can get that are racist and sexist. HR Diversity and Inclusion Assistant, Diversity, Inclusion and Wellbeing Manager, Inclusion Specialist, Equality and Diversity Manager. There are so many. It's a massive business now. But that's another thing. That's another aspect to it, of course. People making a lot of money out of it now. Once money comes into it, then it makes it very difficult to stop. Racism and sexism isn't just bad for the excluded group that is being discriminated against. It's also bad for the chosen included groups. The group that has to score above 70% will on average be above the group that scores 60%. So you can see here how inclusive politics weakens the included people. Now, racism and sexism has a detrimental effect on everyone. Racism and sexism has always been bad and will always be bad. Racism means unfair treatment of someone because of their race. Sexism means discrimination on the basis of sex. Martin Luther King said, "I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the colour of their skin, but by the content of their character."